Hello everyone. Welcome to today's debate. As Dom said, we're here representing an organisation called DebateMate, not the Labour Party. And we're here to do something a little bit different at today's summit. We're here to actually get both sides of the argument put forward. So we know that Reward Gateway and their partners are incredibly passionate about engagement, incredibly passionate about recognition, and know that it does drive engagement and drive returns on investment. But there are some people out there, as Dom said, that are still naysayers, and they annoyingly happen to hold all of the financial power. So we today are going to try and put forward both the case for engagement and for recognition and for praise, but also crucially, the best arguments against it. And the purpose of that, so that when you go back to your offices, you already know the arguments that they're going to make against you, and you will have heard the best counter-arguments in the land to go back at them with. We'll take a small commission on any success that you drive, and I'll take it personally in the form of Nando's vouchers. I'll come back to that in a second. So who are DebateMate? Has anyone heard of us before? Apart from the two students, yeah? Hi, I can't see anyone really. But DebateMate is a global social business. We started life 10 years ago as a charity, and the charity was set up with a mission to equip young people from disadvantaged backgrounds with the key skills to succeed in school and beyond. So that program is run by university students, and it's an after-school debating program wherein people from all over the country, we started with just 30 schools in London, we're now in 300 across the UK, would attend after-school debate clubs, compete with their friends, compete against local schools, compete nationally. The purpose of that wasn't really to create amazing debaters, although you'll see some evidence to the contrary today. Instead, it was to give the key skills of speaking and, importantly, listening. The ability to be in a team strategically, to lead, to communicate with each other, to be empathetic, to be resilient, and ultimately to have the core confidence to go out and represent yourself and your ideas. So the charity's been great. We've done some really cool stuff with the Prime Minister, whether you like her or not, with Bill Gates, with David Beckham. The charity's been amazing. But what happened about 4 years ago is we realized that you're never too old to learn how to do exactly what our young people do. We would do events like this, we'd take our students along, and senior executives would say, wonderful, I love the charity. Here's 25K, go and expand to Wolverhampton. That was my pushing that, I'm from there. But that 12-year-old girl from Newham is absolutely amazing. Can she come and work for us? And you're all HR professionals. We said, no, that's illegal, go away. Come back in a few years. But serious conversations started to happen, and we piloted basically what we do in the classroom, in the boardroom, with our close partners. And partway through that pilot, we got a phone call from a small company called Deloitte, and they wanted to train 3,000 auditors how to communicate. Now, just let that process for a second. Auditors, communication, 3,000. Anyway, we did it over the course of 7 weeks at a residential in the Cotswolds, and DebateMate Limited, the business side of what we do, was born. And so now we train companies all around the world and do events like this up and down the country to raise money that eventually gets put back into the charitable work that we do. So DebateMate Limited supports DebateMate schools, and we work with everyone from Tesco to Rolls-Royce to BP. You name it, we've worked with them. Premier League footballers, the BBC, we help them pitch for the shows that they have to pitch for now, so I spent my Sundays watching Songs of Praise, getting really up to date with the latest hymns so we could help them really put their case forward. And it's gone from strength to strength, and we're really, really thankful to Charlie, to Dom, and the team at Reward Gateway for welcoming us here today. That's it from me, spiel over. I could go on and on and on and on and on. I've been involved with DebateMate since it began about DebateMate, but I'm not going to. The best way to see what we do is to see what we do. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the stage, on my right first, we have the proposition. And on my left, we'll have the opposition. So what's going to happen is there's going to be a motion put forward. These guys, as the proposition, they're going to argue in favor of it. These guys, as the opposition, argue against it. The way that it will work is each speaker will have up to 4 minutes to speak, and they'll speak alternately. So Millie will start, we'll go over to Ade, to Rasheen, to Deborah, and then over to you. This isn't a passive debate. We don't want you on your phones. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but you're adults, but don't be on your phones. We want you engaged. You guys are experts in engagement, so be engaged. As an added incentive, when we come over to you for the floor debate, we have... Anyone hungry? No, although, by the way, the food here was great today. In terms of conference food, this was up there. If you need any added incentive, we have here. Can anyone see? A Nando's voucher. So whether you like it mild, medium, hot, extra hot, Dom Taylor hot, we have chicken check here for you. And that'll be for contributions from the floor, either a question, a statement, something you're dying to get off your chest, but crucially, they won't be responded to in the moment. Instead, we come back to the stage to our summary speakers, firstly Rushma, and then over to Lewis, who will conclude the case. Everyone clear so far? You'll see some odd stuff happening throughout the debate. I'm not going to give too much away. You'll see me randomly clapping. Again, not going to give too much away. I'm not spasming. It's deliberate. But you'll see the purpose of it as we go along. So there's only one thing left to announce, although Dom ruined my glory. He announced it, but I'll do it to a drum roll if you don't mind. The motion before the House is this House believes that praise pays. This House believes that praise pays. So to open the case for side proposition is Millie. Millie's a senior program director at DebateMate. She's been involved for 5 years. She taught while she was a student at King's College London, where she graduated with a first-class degree in politics and international relations. When she was younger, she played for Manchester United girls team, and then she was lucky enough to be part of a DebateMate program that we ran at Manchester United, where we trained their academy players how to communicate. And we devised this thing called Debate Ball, where the academy players would do some debating, then they'd do some football. And the winner had to do the best at both. And Millie got to go back to her old hunting ground, and teach the academy players. I've asked all of the participants, in the spirit of what we're talking about today, the nicest thing that anyone has ever said about them. And Millie said that someone once said, if girls were allowed to play for Man United, the proper team, you'd be the first name on the team sheet. So give it up for Millie. I need to raise that for me.
What do we mean by the term praise pays? Well, we on Side Proposition are here to show you that today, that no matter what oppositions say, when you're praised, it makes you feel better, and there are gains both for you individually and as a whole on the business. Now, Ben's right. The reason that I loved football, one of the reasons that I loved football, is because I was told I was good at it. You enjoy things that you're praised at. And that's what I'm going to be talking about mainly in my speech today. I'm going to be talking about the individual benefits for... No, thank you. The individual benefits for people who are on the receiving end of praise. I'm also going to talk about how this attracts the best talent to the company before my teammates go on to speak about the effect that praise has on the company at a macro level, on company culture, and on teamwork within the business. So let's dissect this idea about the impact of praise on individuals a little bit more. I'm sure you all know and can think of a time that you were praised, and I'm pretty sure that also made you feel good. Now, that is a gain in and of itself, perhaps a small one from a business perspective, but again, making individuals happier in your organization is going to have benefits for that individual. If you wake up happy and energized to go to work, you're going to be more motivated whilst you're at work. No, thank you, Ade. And what that means, if you're sitting there thinking, yeah, that's true, I know I've been praised at work, and actually it's made me want to go in and make a happy working environment for me, you're not alone, okay? Deborah in her book tells us that 72% of people who are praised say that they will therefore be more motivated and have higher morale at work. So there is definite outcomes, definite benefits for the individual. But also let's think about what happens when you're praised. You're told that behavior was good or that outcome was good. You're more likely to repeat it again, okay? And that ultimately is better for yourself. You can learn from the things that you did well. Yeah, sure, I'll take you now, Ado.
What happens when I receive praise and I think it's inauthentic?
Okay, all right. That is a problem in the delivery of praise, not with praise in and of itself. If praise is delivered well, then all the benefits that we're talking about our team do accrue, all right? We're not saying that praise is universally dealt out in an authentic way. Of course not, all right? You have to learn how to praise genuinely and praise employees so that you get the benefits. But that's not a reason to dispel praise at all. Sometimes business transactions don't go to plan. We're not going to shut down all businesses in the world. That logic is illogical, Ade. No, thank you. Okay. So let's return to that individual benefit. When you learn from your own successes, you can increase your own output and perform better at work. Now, we think on side proposition, this is especially important for the non-sales aspects of businesses, all right? For those teams that don't have very obvious monetary targets to meet, and therefore often their work will be overlooked. But let's also think about what this does for the business, the wider business of the reputation as a whole. Now, I'm a recent graduate, as Ben said, and when I was looking at companies that I want to work for, I wanted to apply and work for an organization that had the same values that I thought I could learn from, that I thought I'd do well in after I graduated. Now, this is not alone. Graduates increasingly look at employee statistics. They look at organizations that they will learn best in. And that's not just down to what organization will I make the most money. That's also down to what organization fits my culture, what organization will I learn from, all right? So not only do you improve the productivity and do you improve your own performance of your staff, you also mean that you're attracting the best individual talent from around the UK, from around the world. And we think that that is incredibly important for your businesses because you're able to increase your output without attracting new staff. And when you do need new roles, you do increase the talent there. And so let's think about the motion's title again. Does praise pay? Yes, it does. It pays because it increases the performance, it increases the motivation, it increases the happiness of your own workforce, and it also means that you have the potential to attract the best talent from around the world. We on Side Proposition urge you to agree with this motion.
Thank you very much, Millie. So now I think you understand why I clap. After 30 seconds, I clap, and the other side can offer what's called a point of information. It's a short, sharp interruption. As you see, they can be accepted or rejected. But unlike what happens in the House of Commons or with Donald Trump or anyone else, they're done delicately and respectfully, because that's how communication should work. Next up, to open the case for side opposition is Ade. Ade began his DebateMate career 10 years ago when he was a student at St Bonaventure School in Newham. As a 14-year-old, he came to DebateMate every week. He tells us that he first came because of the free donuts, so we've been doing this food incentive since time began. He attended the DebateMate Club and then came to our Saturday school, which is called DebateMate Plus. He then went to the University of Nottingham, where he studied economics and politics. He was president of the Nottingham Debating Society and mentored on our program there. He now sits in the office next to me. I've known him since he was a foot shorter than me. He's now a foot taller than me and tells me what to do on a regular basis. He heads up our behavioral intervention program, so we get the hardest to reach kids, those that would never come to Debating Club normally. And we've done that in a number of ways, one of which is by creating Debate Box, which are a bit like Debate Ball, but for boxing. And so the kids get to come along and they do an hour of debating, crucially first, so they don't do the boxing first. They do debating, and then they get an hour with a Cuban Olympic boxing coach. And that's been amazing. It's a really unique program that's been supported by Anthony Joshua and others. And the best thing that anyone has ever said to Ade is something along the lines of, hair's a bonus. So give it up for Ade.
So look, we've all been there, right? Someone pays you a compliment, they praise you, but you don't believe it, right? You think they're just saying this because they want something from me. That goes from the guy outside the shopping center trying to evangelize you to your boss, who you might think is just saying it because they want you to do something as a result of that praise, right? And what we recognize in opposition today is actually sometimes no praise. In fact, a lot of the time, no praise is better than bad praise, praise that we don't believe, that we think is inauthentic. And that's why we stand proudly on this side today. My main argument touches on that. When Millie tells you that the delivery of the praise is the issue, we say the delivery is the only thing that matters. And actually, I'm going to explain to you why most managers, a lot of people delivering praise, might not be able to do it effectively, and why that means that we win today's debate. But let's talk about some of the things that Millie tells you. She says that praise makes people feel better. I would hazard a guess that every person who would feel better as a result of praise would also feel better if we just paid them a bit more, if we rewarded them in the standard ways that we have for that sort of thing, right? Secondly, yes, it makes this individual feel better. What does it do for all of the other people who are seeing this praise being lavished and given to this one person? No, thank you, right? What does it do in the minds of all of those people? If it makes them less happy, has it paid to praise this one individual? Number three, actually, I'll get on to number three when I go into my main argument. It's to do with the delivery of praise. No, thank you, right? The second thing is this idea about how it attracts graduates, right? And Millie preemptively knew the obvious response to that, which is that graduates are attracted by salaries and starting salaries as much as they are by any degree of praise. And also, secondly, no thank you, people are different, right? People differ in what they look for in a company that they want to work in. So there will be some people who want to be patted on the back as a means of getting paid more and working harder. Some people would want the opposite of that, right? So, no thank you. You cannot make a blanket statement about praise when all the people you're trying to attract into your business will be very different. So let's talk about the idea of managers, no thank you, managers and employees and what praise does to that relationship. Because we think it can be very harmful on our side, right? Because their world actually works. If you think the best world they can offer you, one second, Liz. If you think the best world they can offer you is where a manager lavishes praise on their employees, right? That relies on a few things. A manager who can give praise without it seeming contrived, and also employees who can receive it and do not believe that it's inauthentic, right? Is that not true? Or you disagree?
If you think praise is a bad thing because other employees might be jealous, why do you then support giving people pay bumps and bonuses instead of praising, which could also make people jealous?
Well, so think about praise in the context they're talking about. This is in an everyday scenario where your performance is being commented on. You're being effectively reviewed on a day-to-day scenario. And that is going to have an effect on your performance on a day-to-day basis, right? Things like pay reviews and bonuses happen far more infrequently, right? Far more infrequently. So it's an entirely different world we're talking about. No, thank you, right? So their world, right, their argument only wins if managers are good at giving praise, right? It requires the manager to know who to give praise to, how to do it, in what context to give that praise. No, thank you, right? And that perfect utopia might exist in the heads of side proposition today. But in the real world, in the debate we're having today, that isn't the case. No, thank you, right? In the real world, managers aren't perfect. People misjudge. They make mistakes, right? In the real world, people who are giving praise might get it wrong. We're all human, right? And what that has is two key impacts for today's debate. Firstly, it breaks down the trust between a worker and their manager or anyone else in their team who thinks that this person is being inauthentic as a means of manipulating them, and that lack of trust doesn't pay. In fact, it does the opposite of pay. It makes people less likely to work towards the team's objectives. But the second thing is this idea of rifts within the ranks, right? If one person gets praised and the other person doesn't, what does that do to the productivity of this team? What does it do to the overall pay of the team? So Millie was wrong. That's the reality. The delivery is all that matters. It doesn't matter what theory they can offer us. If in practice it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We beg to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ade. Now we go to the second speaker from Side Proposition, and this is the first of our two non-debate mate participants. So they're very brave to put themselves in this kind of weird crucible atmosphere where they don't know what's going to be thrown at them. And that's Roisin. Roisin is head of benefits at HomeServe, and the nicest thing that someone's ever said to her, and I can tell this after meeting her for just 10 minutes, is that she's fun to be around. So give it up for Roisin. Woo!
Thank you. So I'll just carry on the notion then that this house believes that praise pays. So if you were to go to your finance director or MD and say, I know a way we can increase productivity by at least 12%, and all we need to do is thank our employees a bit more, I think you'd get their attention, wouldn't you? And I'm sure they'd want to hear more. Obviously, that's a very simple example of recognition and praise, just by saying thank you. But it's a good way to start, and that's the way that we started at my company, HomeServe. Research has shown that 2/3 of employees say that they would feel more motivated if a simple thank you was given on a regular basis. And again, I can tell you that at HomeServe, that's very true. It's a really weird concept, this is.
You're doing really well.
There's loads of research that shows that a motivated employee is an engaged employee, is a productive employee. You've heard loads of that today from all the different talks you've probably been to. At HomeServe, when we launched our recognition programme, which is called STARS, so Special Thanks and Recognition, our engagement score went up by 30%. Now that's huge, and we're not naive to think that it was just recognition that bumped that score up so much. There's lots of other things that did that, but we know that recognition was a massive part of it. No, thank you. From a business perspective, there's one thing you must do, and that is to link your recognition programme to your values and your strategy. So all business leaders sit there in a room together. No, thank you. In a minute, though. I feel really mean. Oh, no. And she's a fellow Brummie, so I do apologise. So everyone's worked hard on this strategy, and everyone wants to know what they need to do, how they're going to make this strategy succeed. So all employees want to work towards that same goal. So if we reinforce that strategy by linking our recognition to it, everyone's a winner, right? So at HomeServe, again, this is what we've done. We have 5 people promises, and they're basically our values, which we expect our employees to exhibit. Go on.
Woo!
So you keep talking about how your company has certain values, and these values are what should drive your workers to be working even harder. It's what should motivate them, not the praise that you get at the end of it.
Okay, it's a very good point. So, shall I tell you what our values are? And then perhaps that will just give a bit of insight as to how that works and what we do. So, one of them is dare to care. So, we're expecting people to go that little step further, to have that dare to care not only for their colleagues, but for our customers as well. Do the right thing. Who doesn't want to do the right thing? Most people couldn't sleep at night if you didn't do the right thing. To own it, so it's really taking hold and taking control of something that you're working on or going over and above. Always improve. Well, we should always be trying to improve everything that we do. Continuous improvement is part of the development piece that Millie was speaking about. And win together, trust each other is our final one, and that's really about teamwork and how that really instills working together. Yes, Deborah.
I apologise.
That's okay.
You say do the right thing. Well, then why do you have to recognise? If they're doing the right thing, and that's one of your values, then obviously you're doing it because you're doing the right thing, not because you're getting recognition.
That's okay. Don't worry. So do the right thing. I guess it's just going that step further each time you do something. So we've got loads of examples. I'll just quickly talk, I'm just conscious of the clapping, around how that's exhibited every day. So we use e-cards and thank you cards at HomeServe. That was the first thing we introduced. We sent 8,000 of those last year. So if that's not valued and people really want to instill and embed that culture of recognition within the business, that just, for me, brings it home. And also, just to give you a little flavour and a little example of how we do things, and this is really simple, so finance directors out there, recognition does not have to cost very much money. So tomorrow is Valentine's Day, and we at HomeServe will be handing out Valentine's cards to our employees, just as a way to say thank you. So I've got one for all of you. So how does that make you feel? Does that make you feel warm and fuzzy inside?
Just wrap up.
So it's all about getting people to go that extra mile to give that discretionary effort. And I just think that if you're nice to your employees, then they'll be good back to you.
Woo! Thank you very much to Rasheen. And I have to say, I've done maybe 300 of these events in the last 10 years, and this is by far the nicest. Everybody's saying sorry to each other. Everyone's encouraging one another. I just got my first ever Valentine's card. It's amazing. And just a quick reminder that after the next speaker, we'll come over to you guys for your contributions. You can be just as lovely and nice as everyone on stage, or you can take it up a notch and be a bit more combative. In that spirit, it gives me great pleasure to welcome our next speaker, who is Deborah Corey. As many of you in the audience will know, Deborah literally wrote the book on engagement and on recognition and on the fact that praise does pay. She's decided to take on the persona of doubtful, devious Debbie today and instead argue the exact opposite of what she believes, which is a really unique skill, actually, in all seriousness. Being able to empathize, to see the other side, to walk in someone else's shoes, serves to, A, be a better person, but also it helps you to reinforce your own beliefs and to get to the strongest possible case that you want to advocate. So in that spirit, it gives me great pleasure to welcome someone who was once called extremely tall, and that's the nicest thing that anyone's ever said, Deborah Corey. Doubtful, devious Debbie.
So this is called praise that pays, right? Yeah? Does anybody have a lot of money? Do you work at a company that can pay money and do whatever they want to with the money? Well, I'm in charge of the purse strings at my company, okay? And I take that very seriously. Can't see me. Oh, and I take that very seriously. And I only have so much money to pay, right? Now, let's talk about ice cream for a minute, all right? There's vanilla, there's chocolate, and there's everything else. Why do we buy all these different flavor ice creams when people are only going to get vanilla and chocolate? And the same thing is with recognition. We give pay, right? People should be happy that they get paid. We give bonuses, again. Why in the world do we have to use the money that we have for recognition? I just don't get it. No.
Seems like the etiquette has disappeared.
Sorry, you know, I do own the money. I am in charge of the money here, okay? So I'd like to talk, scientific for a minute. There's Maslow's hierarchy, right? There's only so many things in life that we need, and at the bottom is pay. That's what we should be doing, taking care of our parents, taking care of our employees, and taking care of their essential needs, their pay. And any money we take away, oh, go for it.
Deborah, what do you do in certain circumstances where pay might be constrained because you might be a startup, or you might work for the NHS as a nurse, or you might be on a 0 hours contract? Pay isn't always available as a way of supporting people, encouraging people, right?
Yeah. So then why take the money away from pay to give it to them in recognition? I don't get it. You're right. Again, it goes back to the idea you're limited in money, so spend the money on pay. We'll forget about non-financial for a minute because I'm the FD. Yeah. Okay, so that is my first point. That was it about you only have so much money, ice cream. My second point, let's just take care of their hierarchy and needs. And the other thing is, I'm really sorry, but sometimes you just make up recognition just to make up recognition. When my daughter was in school, they gave out awards for people. So one person won best athlete, one person won best student. Poor Chloe was average at everything. Do you know what her award was? Nicest student. And I'm sorry, it was a complete waste of an award. Why did they need to give her this award? It would have been better just not to give it to her. So I'm sorry, I don't think it pays to give praise. Again, I just wouldn't do it. Please rebuttal me. Oh, no, sorry, my second point. See, I'm waiting. I want someone to take me on. The next part is that I'm sorry it doesn't drive engagement. It doesn't. Okay. If it drove engagement, why do 78% of employees around the world not feel recognized? We're spending time, we're spending money on it. Yeah?
So we've talked a lot about the costs of praising,
Yes.
but I think the best thing about praise is that it's absolutely free. You can pay someone, they can get the benefits of being paid, and then you can praise them and they can feel good and motivated to work as well. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think your points are very valid that sometimes when you give the praise, financial or non-financial, it actually makes it worse than it is. But also, the fact that 78% of people don't feel recognized, even if we're giving them the thank yous, it must not be working. If it was working, all these thank yous would be doing something, but it's just not working. And I don't have anything else to say. There's only these are all the things I've heard from CEOs over the year, just so you know. And they didn't have that many excuses.
Okay.
So I should shut up then. Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Deborah. And what Deborah was whispering to me, I don't know if you could hear that, is that these are basically verbatim quotes that she's heard back from board-level executives and CEOs over the years as to why they shouldn't invest in recognition, why they don't think that praise pays. Okay, now, over to you guys in the audience. Don't forget that if you need any motivation other than hearing the sound of your own voice and swaying the debate, then there is some chicken up for grabs. So does anyone have it? If you wouldn't mind standing up, saying your name and then your point, that would be wonderful. And a reminder, they won't be responded to in the moment.
My name's Katie, and just in response to Deborah, isn't praise and recognition not working because not enough people are doing it, not doing it correctly, nobody believes in it, nobody's saying thank you enough. So how can you say that it's not working when it's not a universal thing yet?
Okay, thank you very much. What was your name, Katie? Cool. Anyone else? Yep, at the back. I say back, but yeah.
Hi, I'm Joe. Just a quick question. I don't really have clarity on what we're talking about in terms of praise versus recognition. There's a lot of talk about saying thank you, but then recognition is really acknowledging a job that's done well and maybe with some idea about why it's been done well. So I'm a bit confused about what's actually being argued here.
Okay, really good point. So what's the difference really between praise, which seems, in this context at least, to be the simple thank yous and the nice trinkets, whereas recognition is a bit more substantial, a bit meatier, a bit kind of, you've done something exceptionally well and then you get something for that, whether that's not strictly financial in terms of salary, but money spent on something for you. Yeah, was that basically right? Okay, so that's interesting for the summary speakers to think about the difference between those two things. The gentleman, yeah, in the blue, do you want to shout?
Are there times when praise is not enough and receiving praise instead of, let's say, a cash bonus or something would actually be a disengagement?
Okay, yeah. Why would that be the case? Why would it be disengaging?
You may think, oh, I've done a really good job and all I've got in return for that good job is some kind words. And what I would have liked is
some cash. Okay, I think that's the nub of the debate, right? Do you want a more of a financial bonus? Do you want your salary to go up? Or do you want other things around that that might say the same thing but have a different impact? What was your name, sorry? Rory. Rory? Cool. Yep, gentleman there.
Yes, hello, Jeremy. My frustration with the praise part of all of this is that often you are in a situation where perhaps you're offering praise for a job that they should be doing anyway, and perhaps they've already been doing substandardly. And that's my frustration when you need to then praise them for actually doing what they're paid to do in the first place.
Okay, so Jeremy's saying that essentially you have to, it's a bit frustrating where someone's contractually obliged, more or less, and expected to do X, Y, Z. They do X, Y, Z, then they expect trinkets on top. And I do think there's a problem with language in particular and overpraise, because if you say really well done for something that you should have done anyway, you're kind of screwed because you don't have anything to go on top of that, right? So, yeah, great point from Jeremy. Yes?
Oh, it's on. Right, my name's Tracy, and my, not really question, observation for the tightwad financial director you've got sitting to your left is if you are so concerned about your financial standing and state, I think this sort of thing should be high up on your agenda because it's going to be costing you a lot more not to do it than to do it.
Ooh, thank you very much, Tracy. Yeah, the gentleman at the front.
Just to sort of
stand up, say your name.
Hi, my name's Chris. My point was that the argument for seems to assume that there's only one response to praise that people can have. And I think people are much more complicated than that. They have very different ways of being valued, and there might be intellectual, emotional, financial, and that praise can only have one response from a person, I think is a simplistic assumption.
That's a really good point. So we've talked a lot about the giver, but what about the person that takes that praise, and how is that kind of disparate depending on who they are? No? Yep. Got to be strict as a chair.
Hi, name's Gary. For me, on both sides really, is why are we giving praise? Do we actually stop and get present enough to understand why we're even doing it? That it's not just a reaction to something.
Okay. Why do you think we do it?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Yeah, because fundamentally for me, it's got to be intentional, and I think quite often it's reactive.
Okay. So that's what Ade was kind of talking about, it being inauthentic. It's almost like an automatic response that we do, to your point about it being reactive and in the moment rather than fully thought through. Yeah, great point. Yes, young man.
Hello, my name is Zain. I'm from Shannon College Academy. I've got some to both sides.
Speak into the microphone. That's why you've got it in your hand.
Yeah.
Doesn't do anything if it's there.
Got something to say to both sides, so I'd like to start with side proposition. As it's kind of been mentioned in the floor and with Ade's speech, and even the example with Deborah, don't you think that sometimes there is sort of this fake sort of praise with even like the award that Deborah gave, the example about there being an award for being the nicest person? Like, personally, I don't think that's sort of helpful praise. Praise is something that's meant to boost your morale, whereas just telling somebody that you're being the nicest in school, that's not really going to help them in their education as much as giving actual recognition to their hard work in subjects. And for side opposition, don't you think that at least something a little bit towards praise would sort of boost morale in a workplace? For example, I'd like to give, for any Man United fans out here, before our caretaker manager, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, came in, with Jose Mourinho, there was really no morale. Not many people wanted to even play. The best players were on the bench. But then once he got kicked out, morale started to boost it in the team, and we got 11 matches unbeaten. So therefore, that's a clear example of how morale can boost performance in a workplace. And so therefore, this is why I am kind of neutral in this motion. Thank you.
Wow. And I should say at this point that these guys only met each other about 25 minutes ago, and these guys, Zayn hasn't prepared anything, so he's just taken what he's heard. And you didn't tell me you're a United fan, I wouldn't have let you come. But you're forgiven because your point was great. And I think the Jose Mourinho thing will be studied at business schools for time immemorial, because it is, basically his model has been moved on from. That kind of old, tough, let's be really mean to our employees, footballers in his case, just doesn't work anymore. And I think that encouraging kind of bringing people along, praising them, recognizing them, giving them a shot, allowing them to make mistakes is actually the model that will succeed going forward. Thank you, Zayn. Anyone else? Yep.
My name's Becky, and what I would say is, imagine if you had company A and you would earn 20 grand there, and then at company B you would earn 20 grand and get meaningful recognition. Which would you rather?
Ooh. But back to you, if you had 22.5 grand, no praise. No, 22.5 grand, no praise. 20 grand, lots of praise, what would you do? Which is why the debate exists, right? That's why it's not so clear cut.
Can I challenge one of the ones that was raised?
Please do.
So about the point around, are we just recognising them for jobs they should be doing anyway? I think recognition as a tool can really help bring people up. So rather than focusing on the things they're doing wrong and how do we call those things out, how do we notice when they're doing the right things so that they continue to do them and you can increase their performance and the role they play within the organisation. So that's
And sorry, Zayn, you're from Shireland Collegiate, right? What year? Year 8 at Shireland Collegiate. And that's Dom. He's year 9 at Old Swinford Hospital School. And, and who's next? Yeah.
So I certainly like to...
What's your name, sorry?
Sorry, my name's Liv, Communications Manager. I like to reward and recognise people when they go above and beyond in our role. So if they're staying till 9 o'clock at night, I like to praise them for that work done. But I think recognition and praise is also to be acknowledged for the BAU, the stuff that you do every day. That's some of the most boring and tedious work. And if you want to keep motivating people, you should praise them for doing that well as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we got a guy at the back. Do you want to shout? What's your name, sorry? Who do you work for? Who do you work for? Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got one which is, perhaps back to your point about being neutral, is the debate seems to centre around, or the language that's being used is we use praise via words. I think we've got to take this debate higher and say, what are all the ways that we can praise somebody? So I've just left the company and resigned. And to your point, what's the nicest thing that anybody ever did for me is 2 of my team members broke down in tears because I was leaving. And the nicest thing they said to me was, I changed their job, like fundamentally changed their job. And it links back, I think, between this debate and the previous talk around job design. For me, the way in which we praise people is too restricted, and that we box out people's jobs so they're working till 9 o'clock in the evening. We've got to challenge that and say, why are people working at 100% capacity? For me, a way of giving praise is to say, that's 80% of your job, and I'm going to reward you by giving you extra work because you, and find fulfillment in that rather than just words. So I think we've got to take the debate much beyond the words that we use and the simple thank yous. Links to your point about authenticity, right?
Yeah. We did a debate at, I think, a client of yours, actually, Lockton. And we did a debate on whether this house believes that salary is supreme. So on one side, you have loads of money, and on the other side, you had not just praise, but everything else, essentially. And we had a lady called Bridget Juniper, I think her name is, and it was all about good work, which is, I think, to your point at the front. So job design, what are you actually doing? And to the gentleman at the back's point, in terms of more meaningful praise from both sides and how that interacts with one another, it's, I think, because you're doing your job 40 hours a week, what you're doing is a really important part of that, irrespective of what people say about it or how much you get paid. The physical job that you're doing, the job design aspect, is probably the most fundamental thing that sticks with you because that's the thing you're doing all the time. Final one, anyone? Yep. You've been volunteered by the lady behind you. Okay, and on that bombshell, we will return to the debate. So I have a winner in mind for the best contribution from the floor, but we won't announce that just yet. Instead, as promised, we return to the debate. And because it's this side's burden to carry the motion, they get to begin and end. So we reverse the order for the summary speakers. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the stage the summary speaker from side opposition, which is Rushma. Rushma is in Year 8 at Shireland Collegiate Academy in Birmingham. She's been doing DebateMate just for a year, so she's very new to the programme, but this is the second time that she's done a debate with us in a forum like this. We went to Pearson, the massive education company, and we did a debate at their annual sales conference. She blew me away. I'd never met Rushma before, but now she's on speed dial because she's awesome. And really, I have to say thank you to Mr. Moore, who begs his SLT to let the kids out to come and do events like this. And he could easily come with just Rushma, or Rushma could come with a guardian, but instead he always insists that other students get to come and experience it as well. So thank you very much, Mr. Moore. I won't say any more about Rushma. Over to you.
Hello, my name is Rushma. I'm a Year 8 student at Shireland Collegiate Academy, and today I'll be summary speaker on side opposition. Opposing the motion, this house believes that praise pays. Our first and second speaker have probably already persuaded you as to why we should win this debate. However, it's my job to go that extra mile and end this debate for opposition right. Although first, I would like to answer a few questions from the floor. So one of them was, praise shouldn't be given out to jobs that should be done anyways. And I agree with this. What we're doing is lowering the standard of jobs instead of raising them and creating harder targets for people to reach so that we can actually grow. And wouldn't offering something boost people's morale? Well, if I gave you a bonus, obviously you would be happy and you would start doing work more, but that's the thing that we're trying to take away. You shouldn't need extra rewards and extra, even words. You shouldn't even need them to be trying your best. You should be doing that because you love what you do and you truly believe that you're helping. Now onto some rebuttal. Proposition's second speaker spoke about how it's important for bosses to be kind to their workers. However, since when is kind classed as an extra bonus? Kind should be giving the workers opportunities and not giving them words that mean something or could not mean something to them. Now I'd like to summarize and further explain my teammates' points. Our first speaker, Ade, made a point extremely important to this debate. The relationship between praise, managers, and the workers. Praise is something constantly overthought of. When someone fails at something, you automatically say, "Oh well, you did well." It's just good manners, but it's not facts. What we are telling you is facts. Our second speaker, Deborah, spoke about how there is really no need for further rewards in any shape or form. In a job where you are destined to strive, there is no need for you to constantly be reassured. When praise is given out constantly, workers start to become reliant, questioning their every move instead of working confidently at all times. Now,
On that point.
decline. Now, proposition and opposition have butted heads a lot in this debate, but hopefully I'll be able to convince you why opposition is right with clash points. Now, proposition seems to be under the impression that praise is a magical tool that instantly changes everyone's work ethic and that a company is going to turn into a huge success based on some rewards. What these rewards are actually doing is giving you a short-term booster of productivity for a couple of people who really want that bonus. It's taking money from the company and giving it to workers instead of using it to grow your company in a better and bigger way. On team opposition...
On that point.
Accepted.
So when you're building and want to increase productivity, surely those short-term boosts derived from praise are important to that end. And if you instill a culture of praise and there's recognition consistently for achievements, you get those short-term boosts several points throughout the year and it becomes a consistent impact on the business. Do you not think that would help a company?
Of course it would, but what we're trying to say is that you shouldn't need praise to do that. You should be happy within the company that you're working in and shouldn't have little boosts, little vouchers to start working more. You should think about how your work impacts the people around you. Now,
Nothing wrong with vouchers.
I'll talk about that later. On team proposition, we are confident that we have given you many reasons as to why we should win this debate. Yes, as a 13-year-old, I must say that I have a lack of experience in the workplace. However, this same system is implicated throughout something that I am much more familiar with, school. Rewards and being praised is something we usually first get introduced to in nursery. If you can count to 10, congratulations, you just earned 10 more minutes on the swings at break time. And that overachiever who can count to 13, you soon become a teacher favorite. I was that kid. My past actions earned me the title teacher's pet. All of us here have had that phrase, whether you were named it, named someone else it, or just laughed along. But being the so-called teacher's pet gave me an opportunity to think from a different perspective. Why would the class pick out one individual to call this name? Well, that's the thing. Instead of focusing on the individual, widen the picture and look at the entire class, or in this case, the entire workforce. What effect does it have on the majority? Well, putting one person at this idealistic standard creates unfriendly competition where people feel the need to please others to claim that they are superior instead of working hard. Trying to do things because you're extrinsically motivated instead of putting in hours of effort and doing things to gain personal gratification and to help your future. Even if money did motivate these workers, how long is it going to last? We know that all the floor speakers are really doing it for the Nando's voucher, I mean, come on. But all this is an example of is temporary compliance. Now, it found, oh, wait a second. Well, there was a study conducted by Hee Soo Fen Lin in 2007 that showed that 172 employers in 50 large organizations from Taiwan found intrinsic motivation was far more effective in creating a productive workforce than an extrinsic reward. It ensures a more consistently motivated and united workforce. You should get paid for doing hard work, not through loopholes and certainly not through the words good job. Therefore, on side opposition, we are against the motion this House believes that praise pays. Money can buy workers, but you can't put a price on confidence or commitment. Thank you.
Whoa. Wow.
Can we hire her? Even though we didn't agree.
Yeah, that's another one of those things I have commission on. Thank you very much, Rashma. Now, if there's one person that can top that, it's our next speaker. Next up, to conclude the case for side proposition, is Lewis. Lewis has been involved with DebateMate in various forms since even before it began. He helped advise our CEO in its founding. Lewis attended the University of Oxford, where he was the World University Debating Champion. He coached the England World Schools team to our only ever World Cup victory in Germany in 2016, where he also helped DebateMate students start to get into the elite debating teams, the England team, which had previously been the preserve of the Eatons and the Westminsters and the Dulwiches. He has worked across the city, but very recently has set up his own company called Purpose Union. And Purpose Union is a social purpose consultancy, strategists, communication experts. And DebateMate and Purpose Union are a partnership, and we go into organizations and do day-long workshops that is a mixture of social purpose, strategy, helping with comms, and also doing what we do day to day, which is improving people's personal communication so you can be as impressive as Rashma. So Purpose Union is a great new organization, and Lewis founded it and is now CEO. So please welcome to the stage Lewis Iwu. He hates that I build him up because then he has to perform. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Ben. And in the spirit of today's motion, I just want to say you guys have been fantastic. You've been amazing. It's been wonderful having you. I love you guys. You guys are terrible. I'm only joking. Actually, Ada, you were actually terrible. I can say that because Ada and I went to the same school in different years, and I actually taught him how to debate, so it's a bad reflection on me. I want to quickly just review the strategy of our opponents in this debate today, because Ada stood up and first he said, this debate is about pay versus awful praise, which is badly implemented, which was obviously a straw man. We told you we don't support bad praise, we support good praise. Then they shifted tack a bit when they realized that line wasn't working for them. And then they shifted it to, this debate is about not spending money versus expensive and lavish praise. When we told you all along, this is a debate about very cheap gestures and words, but words which carry meaning. So the strategy has shifted because I think they've struggled to come up with a really compelling reason why it's a bad thing to tell people that they're valuable. It's a bad thing to, no thank you, to tell people that they're part of the team, to celebrate their achievements and their successes. I'm going to look at 3 questions. First of all, does this help employees? Second of all, what are the alternatives? And finally, does this help with external reputation and recruitment? So first of all, does this help employees? We told you that this is a great way to motivate employees. We told you that humans at their core want to be valued. They want public recognition for things that go well in their lives, and they want to celebrate the achievement of other people. We told you that it's a useful way of generating and inspiring people to come up with great ideas. And in fact, an issue that hasn't really been looked at is that it can help with people who might suffer from imposter syndrome, people who may not think they're good because of their background or because of the way they speak. Actually, getting that praise can be incredibly important. What was their response to this? No, thank you. They told us, well, what if you get it wrong? Our response is, well, train people to get it right. And by the way, it's not that difficult, to, no thank you, to get people to say to someone, thank you very much, or to celebrate someone's achievement, or to have a prize that might be Employee of the Month. These things aren't difficult to implement, right? No thank you. So we don't think that's really an objection. Then they said, well, people should love the work that they do anyway. We're like, okay, that's fine, but there are lots of instances where people do work which is monotonous or they may not enjoy it for a variety of reasons. What if you work in a startup where they can't afford to pay you the salary that you might want, and you accept that, but you want to work in a place which has a particular culture? What if you're a nurse, like my mum was, and you have a pay freeze for 5 years because the government has decided to not increase pay for you? What if you work for a non-profit? What if you work on a 0 hours contract? So there are lots of scenarios where increasing pay or having fat bonuses isn't an option. And in those situations, what do you do to motivate people, Ade?
We need an answer, right? Because you've just skirted over the issue. Is the average person giving praise going to do it successfully?
Yes, in most instances, people are actually quite good at giving praise. I've answered that in the last point I made. Let's look at the second question about alternatives. So let's stick with this theme about pay, because they told you the worst thing about these reward systems is that some people get rewards and recognition, and other people don't get reward and recognition. That might create resentment and jealousy. And in the same breath told you that they support bonuses and pay schemes. We said that's a contradiction. Ade went, but you see, pay is different because pay happens more infrequently than giving praise. Therefore, it's different. That aside, that probably proves the point, and actually they're not substitutable. So you have a time lag. So if the only way in which you can recognize people, assuming you have funds, is once every year where you do the bonus round, in that interim period, you're going to lose people, right? Either literally they're going to leave, or they're mentally they're going to check out of your company or your organization. So actually the great thing about praise is it's real time. People don't forget. You can capture in that moment someone's successes. No, thank you. So ultimately, we think we can get an outcome where people feel rewarded, feel cherished more quickly and efficiently than waiting for yearly intervals. I want to make a final point.
You're out of time.
You're out of time. I'm so sorry. Finally, the last point about external reputation. This was a point that literally wasn't responded to, right? In today's world, pay kind of matters, but actually, Generation Z, the snowflakes, some people may call them, I don't think they're snowflakes, just think they're people who value things like culture, teamwork, corporate ethics. They care about that way more than they care about pay, right? And quite frankly, you have to recognize that there's a group of people who won't be motivated by purely pay anymore. It's why, when we talk to sort of chief executives, they're telling us that their best people are leaving to go and set up social enterprises or work in the third sector or do something more worthwhile, right? Pay isn't the only way in which you can motivate people. And we think actually externally, if you build a reputation for treating your employees well, but also building a culture that celebrates the successes and the creativity and the ingenuity of your staff, that has a feedback mechanism, whether it's on Glassdoor or word of mouth, which helps you attract people. And in a war for talent, where it's incredibly difficult to get talent globally, that matters a lot. It will matter even more as we have a hard crash out of the European Union. That's a little political point I had to insert at the literal last minute there of my point. Ladies and gentlemen, this debate is straightforward. This benefits employees. The alternatives aren't sufficient. And finally, this helps with external recruitment. It's for all those reasons why you have to vote with a side that wants to treat people with dignity and give them praise. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Lewis. And I know we're pressed for time. Before I welcome Dom back up onto stage, we have to have a vote. We said it at the beginning. Lewis just alluded it. They all want you to vote for them. They've all tried to engage you. They all want you to reward them one way or another, recognize their achievements one way or another. So I know we're jaded by Trump, by Brexit, by the snap election, but this is the vote of the century. This is so important. Lewis somehow managed to get Brexit into a debate about recognition. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. So we've got to have a vote. So we're going to do this not by ballot box, not by app, not by show of hands, but instead by making some noise and annoying the people downstairs. So I'm going to point to a side. If you think that that side has won the debate, trying to put your prejudices aside, I want you to make some noise. So firstly, on the count of three, for the proposition. 1, 2, 3. Pretty good. What a surprise in a room full of you guys. And for the opposition. 1, 2, 3. Oh. I would say it's too close to call and invent an AV guy with a decibelometer, but we won't do it. It's no surprise. You guys were great, but particularly Rushma. Jesus, wow, whatever.